When it came to August 2nd with Genesis, what happened that night?
I didn't know he was gonna go against her or anything. Like, it was just our problem that night.
Graciela Bustamonte, accused of torturing her 8-year-old stepdaughter to death, just faced a new nightmare, this time behind bars, after she was allegedly assaulted by a fellow inmate. We're gonna break down the details of this case and the factors that may have sparked this attack, all with an expert in this area, prison consultant Justin Paperny. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Graciela Bustamonte, also known as Grace Mata, stepmother charged with torturing and killing her 8-year-old stepdaughter, just had a very, very rough week behind bars. She was allegedly assaulted by a fellow inmate at the Lerdo Correctional Facility in Bakersfield, California on August 8th, and reportedly had to be hospitalized following this attack, though local media outlet KBAK reports she has since returned to the jail. So why did this happen? Well, I need you to brace yourself, because once you might hear the details, this all might make a little bit sense to you. Not justifying it in any way, but again, might make sense to you. So Bustamonte and her husband, Ariah Mata Jr., are accused of killing Ray's young daughter, Genesis Ariah Mata, who was found dead in a hotel bathtub in Bakersfield on August 2nd. According to police reports, Genesis suffered some of maybe the most horrific abuse that we have ever reported on here on Sidebar. I think that might be a fair conclusion. Police say she was beaten, she was whipped, and she was burned with boiling hot water. A child. Authorities allege that the couple repeatedly slammed her fingers in a door frame, crushing her hands so badly that her fingernails were separated. It's horrifying. It's horrifying. There's no other way to say it. And as for the inmate who allegedly attacked Bustamonte, we're talking about 36-year-old Anita Doran. She's apparently received tons of support online, including a flood of donations to her jail commissary account. Other inmates reportedly kept their distance from Bustamonte because of the charges, but not Doran, who even said she would definitely do it again. Now, we'll take a look at what else Doran had to say. We'll even get to hear from the suspect herself, Graciela Bustamonte. But first, here's a recap of how this, again, just awful, awful case unfolded. So according to a Bakersfield Police Department press release, quote, on August 2nd at approximately 5:37 p.m., officers from the Bakersfield Police Department responded to the La Quinta Inn located at 3232 Riverside Drive regarding a possible medical emergency. The reporting party advised that she had received secondhand information that an 8-year-old female may be unconscious and not breathing inside a bathtub. Upon arrival, officers located the correct room. After receiving no response and finding the bathroom door locked, officers forced entry. Inside, they discovered an obviously deceased 8-year-old female in the bathtub. The child had been left abandoned and exhibited substantial trauma to her body. Throughout the course of the investigation, Ariah Mata Jr. and Graciela Bustamonte were identified as suspects. Both were located and detained without incident. Mata Jr. and Bustamonte were later arrested and booked into the Kern County Jail on charges of murder, torture, and multiple counts of child abuse. Now, this little girl, again, 8 years old, Genesis Mata, who police say was left for dead in the bathtub inside of that hotel room, the final days of her life, which were reconstructed from police reports and court documents, they reveal a nightmare that no one should ever have to imagine. Crazy story, I know, but this is one we wanted to bring to you. This is one we want to stay on top of, and the reason we can do this is because of the amazing support that we get from our sponsor, Upside. Now, if you don't know what it is, Upside is great. It is a free app that gets you cash back when you buy daily essentials. So I pump my gas, I can use Upside. I go out to lunch, I can use Upside. Maybe I get something at a convenience store, I'm using Upside. And why not get cash back when I do all these things, right? Real, actual cash back. It's money that appears in your Upside app that you transfer right into your bank account. So once you have the free Upside app, you claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. You pay as usual using a debit or credit card. You follow the steps on the app, you get paid. So to find out how much you can earn, click the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on screen. But make sure to use our promo code SIDEBAR because you'll get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. According to those reports, Ariah Mata Jr. and Graciela Bustamonte gave conflicting accounts to police, each arguably, seemingly trying to shift blame. Yet when investigators pieced together the evidence, there was this picture of alleged abuse and neglect that emerged quite rapidly, and it apparently or allegedly exposed the full extent of what they say Genesis endured. Media outlet KGET reviewed police reports and court documents to compile a timeline of what authorities say happened that night, drawing on witness statements and interviews with the suspects. And in the weeks leading up to her death, Genesis and her siblings were reportedly living in unstable conditions, staying at this La Quinta Inn at the time. Her father, Mata, had a history of legal trouble, including arrests for firearms, drug possession, driving without a license. On Tuesday, July 8th, after failing to show up in court on his 2021 gun and drug charges, a bench warrant was issued for Mata's arrest. He was taken into custody but later bailed out by the La Quinta Inn manager after Bustamonte apparently intervened. Then you go to Friday, August 1st, around the middle of the day. A La Quinta housekeeper went to clean Mata's room. And when no one answered after knocking, she used her master key. The door was locked from the inside, and when she announced herself, she said she heard a boy on the other side say, "No, thank you." Now, it is worth noting that that voice could have been one of Genesis's other siblings. But police say, based on the interviews with Mata and Bustamonte, this was the day that Genesis had been tortured and left in the motel bathtub, though the exact timing of all that remains unclear. But what we do know, per KGET, is that later that night, at around 9:28 p.m., a hotel employee said they were in the staff laundry area when Mata appeared unexpectedly, asking for a cleaning bucket and claiming his room was dirty. So he apparently returned shortly after to grab towels, leaves again. And around the same time, police say Bustamonte called a friend or a relative claiming that Mata had, quote, strangled her during an argument and arranged to be picked up the next morning at a downtown bus station. Then you go to Saturday morning, August 2nd, when Bustamonte's friend arrived at the bus station. Mata and a 3-year-old child were with her. So by this point, neither Mata nor Bustamonte, according to police, are at that La Quinta Inn any longer. And by 5:32 p.m. on August 2nd, Mata's sister said Bustamonte called her in a panic, saying she had left Genesis with Mata and that the child was submerged in the bathtub. And this is when police say they were called. So per the probable cause statement that was reviewed by KBAK, an officer who responded to the scene after it was declared a crime scene described what they saw, saying, "I observed there was a small, unclothed female child, later identified as Genesis Ariah Mata, laying supine inside the bathtub of the bathroom. I observed immediately that she appeared to be physically injured and the majority of her body consistent with being burned. I observed that there was skin splitting on the top of her head, genitals, stomach, arms, and legs. It should be noted I also observed there were foam bubbles emitting from the nostrils of Genesis. I observed her back had massive scarring and additional burns. Genesis' back was consistent with being whipped, and her flesh under the skin was exposed. I observed Genesis had her head almost shaved bald. While I was observing Genesis, I observed that her fingernails on her left hand were ripped from the nail bed." According to KBAK, one officer who entered the room was stunned by the scene, quote, exclaiming, "Oh my God," and appeared in shock by covering his mouth. Now, as we mentioned earlier, police say that Bustamonte claimed in an interview that Genesis was killed on August 1st, so a full day before 911 was called. And according to authorities, Bustamonte apparently told them that Mata performed CPR when he noticed Genesis wasn't breathing, yet no one contacted law enforcement at that time. And per the police report, Bustamonte's mother talked with police, telling them she was informed by Graciela Bustamonte that Ray Mata Jr. punched Genesis until she was unconscious. Reporting from KGET indicates that an investigator who spoke with Mata had this to say: "Ray Mata stated he did not mean to do this, and it happened out of madness. Ray Mata stated it happened because his kids weren't listening." Now, Genesis was allegedly not the only one abused. According to KGET, Bustamonte told investigators that she, quote, watched Ray Mata Jr. beat the children until their backs bled a lot on many occasions. The children were reportedly whipped with hangers and wires. Mata allegedly admitted to police that he was responsible for the beatings, but that Bustamonte is the one who heated water up in the microwave and then poured it over Genesis. That's according to reporting from KGET after they reviewed court documents. Now, Child Protective Services apparently already had an active case against Mata because a boy, seemingly one of his children, had been missing school. And when the boy did show up, he had apparently bruising on his arms. This is according to court documents. When officers examined this boy, they reportedly found a whole slew of injuries, including scars all over his body that appeared to be from lit cigarettes and a lighter being held against his skin. It During the couple's first court appearance on August 5th, they both pleaded not guilty to charges of first-degree murder, willful cruelty to a child, torture. Now, Bustamonte apparently spoke out from jail, and we're going to unpack what she had to say in a moment. But first, I want to bring on a special guest, somebody who has the expertise to explain what is going on behind bars, particularly when we're talking about this alleged attack. So I want to break it down with prison consultant Justin Paperny. Justin, thank you so much for coming back on the program. Great to see you. Just your thoughts on this so far. It's just a tragic case, but with a very wild development.
It's tragic. You have such empathy for the family, and it's not surprising that the community is coalescing around this woman who engaged in this assault of this woman who allegedly killed this beautiful little girl. So, like, the moral emotion that people feel in society, they need to get behind it and support this woman. It's not uncommon. And I suspect, even though the end result for this woman who engaged in the assault, she may get a longer prison term than what she was already facing, the support that she is receiving, the fact that she is viewed like as a hero, and she is responsible for the retribution that so many people want, it makes the case stand out. And it just doesn't help, not just the crime, but apparently how they were responding in prison with a sense of carelessness and no recognition of the terrible, sickening harm they have done. And you can expect more pain for them as their prison term continues because of the crime.
Now, movies and television shows will tell you that those who are accused or are found guilty or convicted of harming children have a very tough time in prison, that those are the ones who are most likely to be targets for assaults. Is that true? Is that something you see here? When I tell you what she's accused of doing, and now she is purportedly the victim of an assault, are you surprised by that? Or you say, hey, listen, Jesse, those are the people who are targets in prison?
I'm not surprised by it. It's true. When I was in the halfway house in Hollywood, California in August 2009, my bunkie served 40 years for robbing banks, told stories about being in the penitentiary. And he flat out said, and it's right out of a movie, we have more respect for a killer than someone who engaged in the raping or killing of a child, molestation, those sorts of crimes. So that it is absolutely true. Their journey will be measurably harder because there's this sense of, okay, if I killed someone, it's gang related. It's not right, but that's the life that we signed up for. A little girl, this sort of crime is unforgivable. All these crimes are unforgivable, but yes, it is a stigma. It is higher risk, and it leads to a harder prison adjustment for them, which I know brings happiness to people who want them to suffer. Segregation, locked away, and much more protection and isolation. And it's simply a matter of time before some prisoner or inmate takes it upon themselves to bring back this like vigilante justice. They want to get their name in the news. Many of the people with whom they will eventually serve their life sentence are serving life. So like they don't have a release date. They're not concerned about going to the hole or getting transferred. They want to hold people, someone they disgust and disdain, accountable. Yes, it is a measurably harder journey.
I want to turn to something I mentioned it before. So in this exclusive interview with 23 ABC News, Graciela Bustamonte actually spoke from jail about these events surrounding Genesis' death and what she said happened.
It's heartbreaking, sad. Ray told me to get the fall for him. It would always just, I was just like, always like scared, like, oh, just do it or watch. I did see her when I left the room. She was alive. If I would have just stayed and talked to him, like, I don't think this would have happened.
Now, notably, Mata's family told the outlet that they had reported concerns to CPS, but Bustamonte said the agency never responded. Justin, back to you. Based on Bustamonte's statements in the interview, how might fear of a co-defendant or a partner influence maybe an inmate's behavior and choices in prison? Is that something that should be a consideration?
It should absolutely be a consideration. Everything they do now is going to be considered by the court in the way that they, I suppose, pit one another against one another. Their goal now is to try to avoid, eventually they're going to accept responsibility, they're going to plead guilty. And the hope is that they don't get life in prison, though it's likely, and one is going to accept more responsibility than the other. It was tragic to read the news reports of the family coming out and saying there were signs. One alleged, or someone said, there's no way this was a one-off. It's been going on for a sustained period of time. So there was some breakdown in protocols. Hopefully processes will change. But yeah, exactly what you said is exactly right.
I don't know her. I'm not like a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a mind reader. But I gotta say, when she says or allegedly admits that she left the room while this child was alive, and maybe she feels a sense of guilt or the trauma of that, again, I don't know her, but talking about somebody who's accused of this, and if you're dealing with a situation for argument's purposes that she might feel a sense of, I could have stopped this, I could have prevented this from happening, does incarceration amplify that? Does it amplify someone's guilt? Does it help in someone recognizing what they failed to do or what they actively did? Does that affect them in some way?
I think given her history of the way they looked after this little girl, that statement wasn't some acceptance of responsibility. It was nothing more than trying to absolve herself of some responsibility, stating that I wasn't there, therefore things that happened in the end I wasn't responsible for. So I don't think prison has been some awakening for her, like, well, I'm going to accept responsibility and come clean and make it easier for the people whose lives I've devastated. I hear a statement like that I was leaving, is simply a way for her to avoid accepting any responsibility and to put blame on the other person. And they're just going to go back and forth. They're going to recreate the timeline. Everything that has happened going back months, it's going to shock people. It's going to disgust people. You're going to see failures in the system. How did they allow this to happen? But that statement was nothing more than her trying to not accept responsibility for what she's done.
Now, as we mentioned earlier, right, she was reportedly attacked inside this jail on August 8th. This is according to the Kern County Sheriff's Office. And that alleged attacker, inmate Anita Doran, spoke with KBAK showing no remorse, even apparently saying that she would do it again. She apparently told the outlet, when you're faced with someone that's gross and has no remorse, you kind of don't want to deal with it because you don't want to take it to where you want to take it. I would definitely do this again. And she told KBAK that she spent time in the foster care system, spoke about Child Protective Services, saying when it comes to the foster and CPS system, we've got to protect these kids. What's happening to these children is serious. It's an epidemic and it's disgusting, but something needs to be done. Now, following this assault, as I mentioned, her commissary account reportedly received a lot of cash donations from the community. It's kind of unclear whether they were directly related to the attack, but assuming for a moment they are, Justin, is that unusual? Have you ever seen anything like that? Somebody allegedly engages in vigilante justice against a known suspect, a known criminal defendant, a convicted defendant, let's say, and they're rewarded? Have you seen anything like that?
I've seen it before, and every dollar she received maximizing her commissary essentially is the public telling her, we approve of what you have done. And then you have this social media amplification where someone posts it and they share it. Here's how you can send her money. And it's a way for people to express their moral outrage, support her in any way they can. So I've seen it in some high profile cases before. And her statement from the jail was interesting to me. Clearly, she's not thinking about trying to get the shortest sentence possible. She's doubling down and say, I would continue to do this again. And she's clearly not afraid of prison. She's clearly not afraid of the consequences. You could argue she's being authentic when she says, I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. There's no dancing here with me. I would absolutely do it again. Now, the risk for her is a longer sentence, segregation. She's at risk. She's in prison allegedly for committing a crime, and she continues to commit crimes. So you're going to have a prosecutor say she is a menace. But as you can see, she doesn't care, and society is supporting her. She may get a longer sentence. She will never worry about having money coming onto her books. That much I can tell you. I don't think a story like this will die. And you could even argue people in the community upon her release may say, we're so grateful for what you did in helping bring justice to this woman. We want to offer you a job. We want to offer you 2 jobs. We want to offer you a place to live. These things certainly can happen as the public attention continues to grow. The last thing she is concerned about right now is the length of her sentence based on her actions and statement from the jail.
How does that help her reputation behind bars? Is that something that she would be well respected by her fellow inmates for allegedly doing this?
I think she'll be respected. Like, she is the symbol for retribution. Okay. She is the one who didn't talk about it. She did it. A lot of people talk. Okay. She actually said, this person disgusts me. I know there will be consequences that will follow. I'm going to take action and let this person know what I think of this sort of crime. She probably, forgive me for speculating, as you said, I don't know her, there could arguably be some regret. The punishment wasn't harder for her. She didn't harm her further, maybe take her life. So she is respected amongst that prison because a lot of people, we should do this, we should do it, we should do it. She actually did it. It's why so many in society respect her. It's why they're sending her money. And it's why I presume other prisoners respect her as well. A lot of people talk, very few people do it because they don't want to endure the consequences that she is now going to endure.
Not that you would advise someone like Bustamonte, considering what she's accused of doing, but if you were, what would you advise her, from a prison consultant point of view, what would you advise her to do to navigate, you know, the heightened danger, the stigma, going into an environment like this, and now she's being assaulted? How do you advise somebody to be prepared for that?
So, look, her lawyer's clearly going to advise, I presume, to accept responsibility. And the lawyer is going to say, somehow we've got to say that you were swept into this, you enabled this conduct, the husband, the father, the boyfriend, whomever controlled you. So this person is going to try to engineer an outcome someday could get her out of prison, or if she goes to a higher security prison, could work her way down to a lower security prison. So whether it's a terrible murder like this or it's a standard white collar crime, once you're in prison, most rational defendants, and I don't know if she's rational, say, I want to try to engineer my way out of here. How do I do that? It would start, if she did it, I would advise her, if you did it, to fully accept responsibility. You have devastated people's lives. Crush them. People will never be the same because of you. You've got to own and understand what that means and demonstrate, while this little girl can never come back, what can you do better moving forward? Maybe it's helping hold this other person accountable. So she has to engineer the best possible outcome. And I presume it will start by accepting responsibility and pinning more of the conduct on the man.
So let me bring it full circle back to Genesis, right? The victim in this case. So Genesis' family, they were asking for the community support to give a proper farewell. Her cousin, Sophia Hernandez, set up a GoFundMe to help lay Genesis to rest. The campaign has since closed, but Sophia wrote, she was full of life, had a beautiful spirit, and loved anything that sparkled. Her life was stolen far too soon. Our family is devastated and trying to stay positive during this incredibly difficult time. We are asking for help from the community to lay Genesis to rest. And even in the face of tragedy, the family is hoping that the community can come together to honor and remember this little girl. And as the investigation into Genesis' death continues, Mata has been sentenced in several prior court cases. According to outlet KGET, in July, before Genesis was found dead, Mata apparently pleaded no contest to carrying a loaded firearm without registration, tampering with the serial number on a firearm. In a separate case, he pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor count of possessing marijuana for sale. A felony count of keeping a place to sell a controlled substance was dismissed. But KGET reports that the judge sentenced Mata to 2 years of probation and 70 days in the Kern County Jail for the gun case. But in light of what he and Bustamonte are now facing, nothing compared to it. Because now we're talking about a preliminary hearing for both of them in the murder case. The murder case has been scheduled for October 14th. We'll keep a careful eye on it. Justin Paperny, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
I'm grateful to be back. Thank you.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.